So the next component or components of color accuracy are, of course, decoding is one of them. What we call colorimetry, which encompasses grayscale tracking. How well do you track gray from 10% or 0, really, in fact, up to 100% peak white. Color gamut, which is the actual accuracy of the primary and secondary colors, red, green, and blue, cyan, magenta, and yellow, to the Rec. 709 HDTV standards. And luminance of those colors is also extremely important, maybe in some cases more important than the actual coordinates are if they're close enough. So, you know what, let's switch to the signal generator and put up some fields. So put up red all around the room, take a look at those reds. Again, as Dr. Weber pointed out, if you're off angle from any of the LEDs, it's just not valid, period. You have to get up into the center, both vertically and horizontally. So we'll run through a couple of these all of the colors real quickly, and then the other thing that is important and something we haven't measured in previous years, but we will be from this day forward we are, and that is color tracking. So how well do these displays actually track primary and secondary colors from 10% up to 100? I'm on a beta team with CalMan for a new version of CalMan Pro, version 5, which is not available yet. But I managed to get it running the other day, and we were able to measure 5 different luminance levels of each color: 20, 40, 60, 80, and 100%. So we can see what it's doing in a range. That'll be expanded by the time that software hits the market to 10% to 110% increments, so we can look at it even deeper. We'll put a chart up for each one of these TVs a little bit later and show you that information. The reason for this is that we discovered the Cyan tracking issue on the Elite last year, and quite by accident, actually, because not measuring it, how would you know? Well, how do we know? We have 6 TVs sitting here, and we throw up content.
And it stuck out like a sore thumb.
It stuck out like a sore thumb.
We were scratching our heads,
and then all of a sudden we had these new stylized films with this teal or cyan color at different luminance levels, and there are a lot of films that are doing it. And one of them came up, and all of a sudden this one was blue and everything else was cyan, and we were like, what's going on? So we said, okay, we need to measure cyan on this thing, which Dwayne did in 10 different levels. Then we found out what was going on. So that's now going to be a test for everything moving forward. It's a great tool for me in my evaluation of products for some of my clients also. Could you move to green for me, Ed, please? Yep. And there is a panel in the room that's doing it nearly perfectly. And I'm happy to say it's this one right here. And I'd be happy to say if it was this one, if it were that one. Great job.
for all 6 colors. This
very nearly
is
perfect.
It's basically, well, near perfect, but completely linear. Except for one little small point at 20, where Cyan, leaned back a little bit.
Got tired?
Exactly. But overall, you want to throw up blue, Ed? Yeah. Overall, this is the reference color display.
And that it was not the case last year.
What's number 2, you think?
Well, hold on a second.
We don't want to,
I see nothing. I hear nothing.
Please. We don't want to taint.
No, but if that's my question should have been if that's
no,
near
really,
perfect,
you shouldn't be able to.
if that's 99,
right?
How close are the other?
You try.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
That's
right. We know you're an audio guy.
Being that you now know that you have a reference point, which is this, you can now judge everything else.
You can go on to the secondary side whenever you want.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at the plasma, so being off axis is not that.
Yeah, we may have to massage that a little bit. I mean, black level, when you set white level to a certain point on everything, then black level is what actually uses the color. Yeah, it's a good point.
Hey, it's a good point. Kevin,
Yeah, I'll take some feedback.
he had just put up white. Is that supposed to be D65 or not necessarily?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sure. Everything is calibrated to as close to that as
Okay.
possible. Which one were you?
Well, I mean, actually, it looked a little cool on a number of them, including Panasonic, looked a little cooler than that. But,
Really?
on the white that he just put up.
Oh, you talking about the full white?
Yeah.
That's going to be
This one actually-
ABL circuitry in the actual plasma.
Well, I know, but the color point theoretically shouldn't change.
Theoretically, I did speak with. He's gone now. I did talk to some of the engineers in regard to this, basically. But the issue with the plasmas is, and really, to be honest with you, no plasma
Well, I know,
does
I
it
know.
correctly. But the circuitry, when the ABL circuit kicks in, it shifts the grayscale when it should not.
Since we're on this topic.
So when you do your measurement, you don't do it. You do
No,
it on
we
a
do
box.
10. Yeah, we do
You it on
10%
We
with
do
patterns.
boxes on plasmas, we do full field raster on LEDs.
Got it.
Yeah.
But since we're on the topic, the other component to what we're talking about here is grayscale tracking. I'm going to throw up a reverse gray ramp from HD Basics right now, which shows you 0 to 100 on the top and reversed on the bottom, so that you can see the grayscale in its entirety on all.
You can look
And then you'll
understand.
see
Yeah.
where this will also show you gamma issues.
Mhm.
Even, and you know, you might see a little bit of color in some of these patterns, and you might look at the gamma and say, wow, but the gamma measured nearly perfectly what's going on. Well, maybe it was in between the points we were measuring,
Right.
where we're having some little errors, and they're going to show up.
Right.
I could tell you on the VT30 last year, this panel is significantly better in that regard than it was last year.
But it still has the
Has a little
same
bit.
spikes in the middle section, basically.
It's 10-point correction on that?
Yeah,
10-point correction.
Absolutely.
On most of these, it's 10-point correction?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
except for the WT50. That only has, actually, not even a full 2-point. It's like a point and a half.
It's a point and a half on the North American models. The UK models actually have full 10-point.
Is this the WT50?
Yes.
Right. Yes, I believe that what's going on in Europe is Panasonic is the only manufacturer here that actually has some differences for the EU market. I wouldn't say they're hugely significant, but it's really, think of it as two different implementations of the same panel. Same source components, different menus and things.
See, take a look up here at high luminance levels, we have some discoloration.
This is
It's a little extra normal.
With more time on this, what I would do is I would, and I don't want to do it now because we'd have to recalibrate the whole panel, but I'll illustrate it. I would reduce the contrast to see at what point does it become completely neutral. I think 80 is that number. But if I do this now and bump up the cell light, I'm going to screw up the grayscale tracking. I don't want to do that. I'd have to recalibrate the panel entirely.
Yeah, you're going to have to, because I can see where blue is missing in that. That's yellow.
Right, so there you go. It's already affecting the grayscale up at the high luminance levels. So that's just one of those things that you discover as you get fully, knowledgeable about a product. It takes some time.
Another thing this actual pattern is doing on the plasmas is it's actually triggering the ABL circuit. So again, if the actual ABL circuitry in relation to the grayscale is a little skewed or a little erratic, you're going to get these colors in every single thing over here bouncing up and down. In a good panel, in a good display, it should not matter on what stimuli level you're on. It still should be completely linear. And on good engineered panels, you don't even need a 10-point or a 20-point grayscale control set because the engineer should be able to do this in the actual lab before it hits production with 2 points.
So everybody take a good look at this. This is the final component of the whole color accuracy parameter. And then we're going to throw up some material to look at. What is that thing called again?
The art of flight.
The art of flight.
There's a scene with a lot of movement in that too. I don't know exactly where it is in the art of flight. You know, when they're really.
You were a
No
moment
good.
ago talking about the
When they're really
differences for the sets manufactured for the UK.
Right.
Why
All
is that?
all of your, well,
Is it
historically,
intentional for the audience?
well, historically, different broadcast standards. In Europe, we have 50 hertz, so 50 fields per
Yeah,
second
yeah,
based
right.
HDTV broadcasts. Blu-ray is 24p, same as here. Video games are now 60 hertz, same as here. So in Europe, we have to do 3 frame rates. You only have to do 2 over here. And historically, that's
Get
where
the
it comes
lights
from,
off?
because in the days of CRT, in the very early days of
moving resolution.
the refresh rate of the tube was tied to the local power supply. So everything had to be 50 hertz. But nowadays you can just show us.
Is the last
It's a
color?
historical thing, basically.
Yeah, well, this is,
Well, it's one
moving.
pretty nice resolution. It's a nice disc. That's nice. Gorgeous.
Do you remember how wide you were when you first saw this HD demo material? And now we just take it for granted, you know?
Yeah, we got it.
Scaling algorithm used to go down. Effects of-
In here, in the plane, there was plenty of skin tone.
camera. TVs.
Beer drinking, skin tone. All right, we should move it along. Ed, you want to put MI4 in there? No, that's in the contract.
Part of it's in the gray.
and please move around to judge the color for the LEDs, especially guys on the far edges, because you're seeing it
From where did you actually?
Yeah.
way off angle.
Hey, Ed?
Yes.
When we're done with this, we need to go to the color tracking data and go through each one of those sets before we finish.
You got it.
So everyone has a feel on the color.
Yeah, let's show them the data on the tracking now. This is a screenshot from the 5.0 beta version of CalMan Pro. And it's the page where you do color tracking measurements, right? So currently, it's only capable of 5 different levels: 20, 40, 60, 80, and 100% stimulus. So you have 5 boxes for each color. Right? The center of the box, obviously, is the reference and where you would like to see that dot land. The dot is where it is. There's data in here, which of course you won't be able to read, but you'll get a visual on when we'll put up individual charts. You measure this after you've calibrated it to its absolute best capability.
And we saw this with, what was the content? Nearly a lot of Hollywood movies now, the grid.
All of them.
Teal and orange color.
All of the action movies.
Color grading. So it's more blue and orange on this.
MI4, Watchmen. You've seen the Avengers movie. That's going to have the same thing. Thor. I mean, I can go on and on.
Anything with Michael Bay's name on it, right?
Anything with Michael Bay's name on it, definitely. Actually, anything with J.J. Abrams also.
It's a very popular color grading trend in Hollywood.
Right,
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that whole stylization is like the opening of the Transformers film, for example.
Yeah, that's
They look
big.
at skin tones and go, damn, this doesn't look real at all. It's weird.
Hey,
But
Kevin,
it is
you
what it
mentioned
is.
this is the first year doing color tracking, right?
Yeah, well, if I
All
didn't,
displays.
this is our first year of measuring color tracking, and we're going to continue to do it. Also, CalMan is going to expand this from 5 points to 10. We'll be able to do 10% through 110% increments and really know what's going on. This is not something that we're going to be doing in the field when we calibrate TVs. It's something for evaluation purposes, for reviewers. It could be for reviewers. It's certainly going to be very valuable to me in my consulting work with TV manufacturers. So I'm pushing them hard to get this thing done as soon as possible. Okay, so you're looking at the Elite. You can see each color has 5 points. Starts at 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. Clearly,
And even, what happened to yellow right here?
I guess it's here.
Oh, it's also, no, the
Yes.
upper one.
So 80 is at 60.
Oh, wow.
80 is at 60.
Same
The
thing with
balls
green.
are supposed to be
Yeah.
in the squares,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Well,
Correct.
They're supposed to
Correct.
be in the
Yeah.
squares, okay.
Absolutely.
So what does it mean when it goes left, right? I guess that means, like on this vertical line here, that means it's changed
This
to...
right here? That
Yeah.
means that the luminance levels are lower
Go
than
to the left. If it goes to the left, that means that the hue is changed.
Yeah, the hue is
Okay.
changed.
Okay, but also if it's not on all of them, that's some sort of linearity on luminance or something?
Yes, it
Yes.
is, absolutely.
Okay.
This is 80% at 60, so
I
we got
see.
a luminance.
Ah, okay.
And
Which
that's-
is,
That's
you know,
yellow and green.
Well, that follows up the colors too.
yeah, I mean, in the early days of color management, playing with color management systems, you'd measure, let's say, green and get to 600 and 300 Rex 709 XY coordinates. And if you weren't looking at luminance, you go up and look at green in a color bar pattern, and it looks sick.
Yeah.
Even though it measures perfectly, it looks completely wrong. So the luminance of the color is, in fact, unless you're crazy off on the X and Y, more important than the X and Y, in fact.
This is why this is very, very important now when it comes to actually reviewing displays. Traditionally, calibrators and reviewers will only look at the color at one stimuli level, which is normally 75% or 100%. And they'll basically judge your color based on that level. The issue is, case in point, where if you start looking at multiple stimuli levels, you can probably see that they're not all lined up and linear the way they should be. So if they're not lined up and linear across the actual entire stimuli level, just like Grayscale, what you're going to end up with is the wrong colors, basically, especially with the content today. And like Kevin mentioned earlier, Hollywood is in love with a particular look for action movies, which is called the orange teal look.
Yeah.
If the display has poor color tracking with, say for instance cyan or even yellow, if yellow also, what you would get is on these particular movies, it'll actually change the mood of the film. And it's okay if you like that, but I mean, you have to, it's wrong because the colorist and the director approve that look for their film. So you gonna when it comes to actual
The director's intent is not coming through.
Exactly. So
Correct.
you can either be in one camp. You can respect what the director and colorist want you to see, or you can create your own art. There's nothing wrong with being in either other camp, but it's still wrong per the art of video.
We were watching MI4.
MI4.
And it was the scene with them in the van. And
Yes.
one of the displays, the one that tracked Cyan slightly wrong,
Right.
gave the scene this kind of cold, this look which made us feel like it evoked the mood of cold weather,
Right.
as opposed to something warmer.
All right, another display here. LG. Take a look at these.
Which one was this?
This is the LG plasma upper left-hand
LG
corner.
plasma.
Look at where yellow is over here.
Yep.
Look at where green is over here. Look at this. This is a pretty bad mess also.
Yep.
Um,
So what we have here with, say for instance, green. Green is more yellow than it should be.
So what
Yellow is more red than it should be.
So basically, the white squares are the ideal.
The target.
The
Right,
center
right,
of
that's
those
a target.
exactly,
Yeah.
that's the target.
And the black ones are where
The dots
The dots
are
are
what the TV is doing.
Yes.
And then vertically, it's luminosity and
Yeah, left and right is
Horizontally,
huge.
it's huge.
Yeah.
Let's bring up another one, Ed, because moving right along. Here, this is the anti-WT50 LED.
Same thing.
Got issues with that one too.
Boom, boom, boom. Ooh.
That's really bad.
Which one
Yeah.
is this?
Look at this.
Which
right
set is
here.
this?
And which right? Well, wow.
Panasonic LED.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, we need to get the product down. This one and that one. The problem with that is, in my experience, that rarely.
VT50.
So charge are different IREs. How do you know which one is which IRE?
Starting at the bottom is 20. You go down to the top.
Yeah, this is 100. Yeah. So the bottom's here, you move all the way up. Yeah.
And that'll get expanded to 10 to 100. I don't know. They're going to have
Which one's this
graph,
one?
obviously.
What do these numbers here mean? I noticed they're much lower.
This right here, this is the delta, this is the error gauge for the luminance of the color itself.
Right on there.
So what that means, when we look speaking of luminance, we're speaking going this way, inside of the box this way. Up and down is going to be your hue.
Well, excuse me, on that chart, up and down is your hue,
Oh,
in and out is your saturation. Luminance is non-visible on the two-dimensional chart. It's the third dimension
Right.
that they're giving us. Actually, their studio version actually gives you a three-dimensional chart now, which
But it
is
hasn't come out
really
yet.
complex.
It hasn't come out, right?
No.
I'm on the beta sheet for that one too. Are you?
No. I was looking at it, but I'm saying, it's giving you a chart that it's going to take you a day to analyze.
Figure out,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, well, at the studio level, we
But
need
yeah,
that.
the chart on the top right and the chart, the little small chart on the bottom right is your luminance level of the color. It's not visible in the two-dimensional graph, but it's a measured value. That's very important, actually.
Those are deltas, so those should all be zero.
Right.
Yeah, and that's
it's perfect, and there's no display out there that can read 0 for everything.
But I noticed they were quite big.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But at a certain point, it becomes indiscernible to the human eye
Yeah,
anyway.
and from color, that's usually about
0.004.
well, that's in the XY measurement.
Yeah.
But
Oh, you mean
for,
luminance?
for the delta, that's going to be about a 1.5 or below.
Even, not 3.
Yeah. Well, we're speaking of the 1994 formula,
Okay.
which is the correct formula for.
Yeah, well, actually, on this one, if you look at the small chart on the bottom right, I believe all our luminance errors are below 2.
Yes. So that's why.
Which chart is that? Can somebody point to that chart, the small chart on the bottom right?
That's
That one right there. That's your luminance.
Which TV is
This is the Samsung.
Samsung Plasma.
Yeah.
If you have any play with the
So
software, let me
last
know.
year, the Samsung Plasma was like the most color accurate of all. So
Correct.
how does the color accuracy of this year's Samsung compare to last year's Samsung?
It actually took a step back, and it took a step back mostly here.
Can you put up the Samsung? Oh, this is
This
the
is
Samsung?
Samsung, and also here in blue. It took a step backwards. Now we're thinking this is more along the lines of how they actually designed the panel to have a color at 50, and where we measured this,
We dropped
based
it
on-
down to
right,
47
right,
for
the
the
decoder.
So it might line up at 50 better.
Yes, because this is
It will be.
Yeah, it will line up better on here.
47 what?
On the color.
The color level, the factory
Oh, well, the
preset is
factory
50,
said-
but we dropped it to 47 like I showed you with the color
Yeah,
coding
I see.
pattern. So that will drop the luminance obviously a little bit.
Right. That's why you will see that it's still that 3-click drop still is not accounting for
It's
this
not,
wide.
I was going to say exactly, or this wide here either, or this wide. There's
Exactly.
still some errors going on,
Yeah.
no matter what.
It's just the luminous levels are not as linear as they were last
Let me
year.
ask you a question about that chart. Since they were mostly in line, the hues were accurate, but the luminance were off.
Right.
Yes, in this case, yes.
So what that would translate to in skin tone is people will look more pale than they should. Or if you set the color control at 50, which is where Samsung expected at the factory, it'll look too pink or too red.
Now, this is the Samsung LED LCD,
Okay.
which has a better color accuracy.
Pretty accurate. Okay.
Okay, so we're done. We've got them all?
Yep.
Great. In that case, time to vote, folks, on your color accuracy.